And as we've been working to support authenticity within the institution, we've seen that, well, actually authenticity means quite different things to different people. And I like the quote, sort of authenticity is in the eye of the beholder. So we could actually be thinking about very different things when we're trying to make an assessment more authentic. Next slide, please. So many years ago, when I was starting to try and encourage more staff to move away from exam-based systems and more traditional assessments, we did a very kind of traditional approach. It was Dublin Institute of Technology. And we would engage program teams, all the people that were involved in programs, to redesign initiatives. It was based on an Oxford Brooks model. And we'd negotiate with the school heads of department around about areas that they want to develop, e-learning, rethinking about their assessment. And we'd work over a period of time together. We then got a tranche of money a few years back, and I thought, well, this is a great opportunity to do something slightly different. Operation Authentic Assessment Transformation was kind of born and survived for about 6 months. This was based on a kind of TV program, which I actually have to admit I hadn't actually watched, but it was for people that were interested in making a change in their lifestyle to become more healthy, and they were provided with diet sheets and experts, etc. And we thought, well, why don't we try this model, but we have it relating to assessment. And so people that were keen to think about their assessment and make it more authentic would work with a mentor as scholars to make those changes. And we would support the changes. They were going through them by providing inputs with experts. And this would be supported through communities of practice model, where people could follow on and do a similar kind of task themselves. Or they could just engage and see how the individuals are working. So we picked a variety of different assessment changes or transformations, and they were very successful. They kept blogs, they updated fairly regularly, and we got a set of useful case studies at the end. Like many of these initiatives, so I think we just kind of went with the willing and the keen to begin with. So we perhaps weren't really actually getting to other people. So people that were already, sort of thinking about their assessment were engaging in these activities. We weren't really reaching out to a broader range of our academics. And one of the common issues that we found was that people would say, well, our professional body, our statutory body, wouldn't allow something, and we knew wouldn't allow us to change. They liked exams. So this is a kind of an excuse, which I knew actually wasn't valid, because Engineers Ireland, etc., were very supportive of changing to alternative methods of assessment. So next slide, please. So our QQI, it's like QQA in the UK, when they issued a call about rethinking assessments, I put in an application where we brought people together into sort of a series of workshops, and this involved the professional bodies, the programme teams, and some students. And we started off with Engineers Ireland, the architects, and Corrie, which is the healthcare, social care, and we've now expanded this out into the King's Inn, which is a legal studies, because it was a little bit kind of skewed. I put the image in there of an orientation activity which some of our staff use in the first week of studying a programme in engineering, where they actually build a bridge over, it was a pond in one of our campuses. And the students love this, because it really is learning how to be an engineer. And we sometimes forget about that in the early stages of a programme, that students have signed up for something and we're teaching them maths and maybe things that they don't see as being particularly relevant. So I was hoping that we would, through this project, be developing authenticity across the programme. Next slide, please. One of the first things, and I alluded to it earlier, was that we didn't have a shared understanding of what authenticity was. So authenticity could be something to maybe familiar with a crit Or it could be related to some of the educational developers speak around about authenticity, about real world. And so students in particular use real world where we would use authenticity. So we decided with the stakeholder group to come up with our own definition of TU Dublin. And this is a note of it here. It's about kind of meaningful assessments which increase the relevance, but it's also about engaging ones which are challenging, which could be through collaborative working, about cognitive engagement, etc. And it's not only about professional skills and preparing for work. It's for kind of the wider life-wide skills and becoming responsible global citizens. And sustainability is kind of a key aspect of our educational model. So we wanted to capture that and authenticity and maybe shift away from the professional skills piece. Next slide, please. We also had created an authentic assessment framework based on literature previously and reviews with our scholars for the authentic assessment project previously, and we revisited this. I think realism, cognitive challenge, or assessments that would encourage that were kind of quite easy to sell, I suppose, in some ways to staff. We revisited the feedback processes and putting in place a sort of mechanisms where students would be engaging in feedback, enacting feedback, rather than it being something that was imposed from was very teacher-centered. And critical reflection is that piece around about becoming, sort of effective about making effective evaluative judgments and being able to self-reflect and evaluate one's own work was felt to be important within that. Next slide. So we're now working with different to create toolkits, and I suppose no one size doesn't fit all. We've kind of repurposed various tools that people have used before, and many of these are just to prompt kind of discussion around about assessment. Sometimes people like some of them and other people don't like. So this is one that we've used, like a radar diagram, again mapped against the dimensions of our framework, and you would map out where a particular assessment might be. Now, some people really like this idea. Some people were just drawing circles around and really wasn't particularly helpful. But it actually got people discussing where they would be putting the points. So some wanted to get specific numbers on that, and some were very happy with kind of more qualitative measures. Next slide, please. One of the other things, and I think right at the beginning when we started looking at program intensives and words like transformation, etc., it's kind of quite off-putting. So in some cases, we were trying to get people to think incrementally about making a little change. And again, we had taking Lydia Arnold's idea of nudges, and we would give them little suggestions where they could introduce more realism into an assessment. Maybe instead of using an essay, they would consider different ways in which they would nudge it a little bit along a spectrum, rather than sort of things being like a binary kind of, it's either authentic or it's not authentic. People would see that there was a movement across a spectrum or kind of various dimensions, not necessarily all at one time. Next slide, please. We also wanted to introduce a student perspective when we tried to work using a student perspective, students in partnership with students to develop a compendium, again, kind of adapting Leeds University and Samantha Pugh's work. She did a similar activity, but our students in TU Dublin worked with me to develop a compendium of assessment methods. And we also rank them in terms of academic integrity, EDI, etc. And it's very colourful compendium, and it's very much, it was all designed by 9 students, and I think it's been very well received. Final slide, I think. So next steps, I mean, we're continuing on with our toolkit. We're always looking for new ideas and suggestions, because we're trying to support different needs at different times and what individual kind of might be comfortable with quantitative measures. Others are much more happy with qualitative measures. People can think conceptually. The idea as well is making small changes can, you know, sort of build into something that could be quite strategic or a substantial change, and people have different needs at different times of the program development cycle. We've also tried to showcase, you know, sort of good examples where there's been opportunities to see what are, you know, are valued within the learning community, and we're recognizing this as good work. We produced, we always have demands for case studies, examples. Everybody wants to have case studies and practice exchanges, but we're actually finding it's quite a challenge to get people to contribute these. So there's plenty to do, and that's just really a snapshot, and hopefully we'll get a chance to discuss a little bit more about some aspects if you're interested in any of these. So thank you very much.